Thursday morning, July the 6th, and this is Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour number, I believe it's 159. My name's John Kelsey. Last night was the Lancaster picnic at Park in Manheim Township. It was a low-key, very nice event. I think Ziegler won the Frisbee toss. The main event is, besides very good hot dogs and stuff that people bring for food, is the challenge is to make a turn a Frisbee, and then we toss them and see how far they go. And some had holes in them, and some, we had all kinds of interesting Frisbees. But Ziegler, being a retired architect, got the shape perfect, and it went for hundreds of feet. And he won the jam chuck trophy, which is a jar of jam in a jam chuck. Yeah, Barry won it last year and Ziegler won it this year. So there you go. And Ben's entry did not boomerang back, unlike past attempts. So you know what they say: a good time was had by all. What do we got here? The next upcoming event is Lancaster Woodturners Open Shop this Saturday morning, 9 to noon, at our space in New Holland above Kaufman Kitchens. Matt Kilreski has been heading up the tool committee, and they've spent $1,000 on tool rests and chucks and all that stuff to get all 4 lathes basically equipped for working. We are not trying to equip them all with turning tools. We figure you bring your own turning tools in, but there are now 2 grinders in the place. Every lathe is on a dedicated bench that's got storage space underneath it. There's chucks and live centers and everything you need to turn on each of the lathes. So come on over on Saturday morning. It's a lot of fun. You can just stand around and drink coffee. You don't have to do anything. Okay. Anybody else with questions, comments, announcements? I'm going to take these headphones off. I'm going to call on Kai first this morning. I know that he's got some slideshow from a wood turning event in Germany last week, and we were looking forward to seeing that. So Kai, what do you have?
Okay. I'll share my PowerPoint presentation with you. Hope it works.
Got it.
Yeah, got it? Okay. Yep. Great. A few morning coffee hours ago, we discussed the benefits and drawbacks of symposiums of different size in connection with the Louisville symposium. And I said we have a tiny symposium coming up, and I can tell you about it once we had it. So we had it last week. We tried to join the morning coffee hour, but our internet connection was really weak. So we just said quickly hello, and then we left you again. I put some thoughts that went into the planning of this tiny wood turning symposium together, and I've got some photos to show you of the symposium. If you have any questions, please ask at any time. So some general thoughts for planning such a symposium. The purpose of the symposium or seminar, for example, sharing wood turning knowledge and skills, and of course having fun, which is always an element that you want, and socializing and things like that. The selection of the participants, for example, a group of friends, certain club members who want to come together, members of 2 friendly clubs. So there are a lot of possibilities for people to choose from or to organize in a little meeting or symposium. Then, of course, the question is how many people participate or can participate, which depends on the space you have, for example, the duration, the location. Is it, for example, a private wood turning workshop that might limit the number of people who can take part? Drinks and food for the event, accommodation of participants when they come from further away, and the equipment you need for example, lathe, tools, wood, video equipment, whatever. And in our case, we also discussed a timetable, what we wanted to do. So we wrote that down. And now the participants of our tiny wood turning symposium, we were 8 wood turners. Actually, we wanted to be 9, but one of us had a break in his flat, and he had to stay there to get things organized with insurance and craftspeople, and he could only join for 1 day. Okay, that's the group, and then let's go on, next one. So in our case, the purpose of our meeting was sharing wood turning and organizing future Zoom meetings and discussing a cooperative challenge. We took that idea from the women in turning who are organized in the AAW, and they call it wood exchange. So that's where the idea came from. The participants were that came together is the team that organizes Zoom meetings for woodturners in Germany. The history is a bit similar to the morning coffee hour. We met during or started meeting during Corona, when we couldn't have actual club meetings. Then more and more people from different parts of Germany joined, and it turned out that a group of about 10 people did most of the organizing work for these Zoom meetings, and they were also the people who presented most of the topics. Yeah, so we decided to come together and to discuss how we want to go on working. Also, we wanted to have some fun and exchange some wood turning knowledge. We did the planning via Zoom because we live in different parts of Germany. 8 participants, I have already said that. The catering in our case was done by the host family. So we met at a private workshop. There were other possibilities that we could have chosen as well. One was having the seminar in a museum that has a wood workshop with 2 lathes in it, and we could have met in this wood workshop. That is also our regular room where we have club meetings for the club that is active in my area. And we asked a wood turner who gives who gives sometimes wood turning seminars, who has got a lot of space, and his specialty is hand thread chasing. So we could have met there as well, but we opted for the private workshop because it was the first time and we wanted to try things out. Accommodation was in holiday flats, and one person came with a camper van, and the equipment was the equipment in the existing workshop, plus lathe and tools and video equipment that we brought along. Okay, so that was the theory. Now some photos. This is our timetable. It's in German, but anyway, you see how we moved sessions around on the timetable, and some things came up that weren't in the original timetable. And in the end, we saw that we had planned too much, actually. I mean, we just managed it, but we've never had all the lathes working that we brought along, because we did several demonstrations, or people who came along did several demonstrations, and others were watching. They didn't want to miss anything. So yeah, next time maybe we have the presentations in the morning and then allow the afternoon for trying the things out that we heard about.
Hi, can you translate a couple just to give us an idea in English what those sessions were about?
Yeah. So let's start on Monday then. That was getting known, or getting known to the workshop, and also eccentrical key rings, or wooden key rings that are turned eccentrical. Is that out of center, eccentrical? Yeah.
Off center, off center.
Off center. Yeah, off center. Okay. Then the next one that was actually planned for Monday but then moved was turning Irish bowls. One of us has done several wood turning courses in Ireland, or did several wood turning courses in Ireland with Glenn Lucas, and he showed us the techniques that he learned there, and also turning vases from wet wood. That was another thing that he showed us. Then me and Stefan showed how to turn pencils that have a very simple wooden clamping mechanism for the lead that is used in these pencils. And they are called Gessner Stifte in Germany. I can show you a photo sometime of what they look like. Then rings was the next day. Then another one about drawing pencils that someone showed how to make them. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, we went on an excursion. I have some photos of that. Then I did a presentation about how to do a presentation and use making a tippy top as an example. Then someone showed, or Manfred showed, the hardening and tempering of steel. He had prepared some wood chasers at home, and then he hardened and tempered them and showed us the technique. And also we discussed this cooperative challenge that we did beforehand. So these are some ideas, not everything, but some ideas. And I'll show you the photos as well. That gives you an idea as well what we did.
Thank you.
So that's the workshop. It doesn't normally look like that. Some things like the bandsaw had been cleared out of the workshop to give more space for lathe that people brought along.
How many lathes, Guy?
In the workshop, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 lathes, and we had another one under a carport. So we had 5 lathes altogether. Same workshop, we put a TV in there to and a video camera to give all participants a good view on what was happening. And here Uwe is talking about nestling bowls. That was the cardboard next to the workshop where the bandsaw had been moved and where we had another lathe and a belt sander and stuff like that. Then a garage that we could use, that was the demonstration about hardening and tempering. Another carport where we put some tables in and had the TV as well for PowerPoint presentations, stuff like that.
So let me be sure I understand this. You had 8 people for a 5-day seminar.
Yeah.
What a treat.
Yeah, really. It was
what a vacation. What a mini vacation that would be.
Yeah, it was good fun.
Did they bring their wives and partners?
Some of them did. So there were 3 wives who came along, and there was a little program for them as well. So the host family was really great. The parents of the wood turner where we met, they looked after the wives and showed them around and did stuff like that. So that was good. And some excursions they did on their own.
Some good German beer as well?
Yes. I don't know whether I've got maybe there's a photo of it. Let's see.
Not working. Good German beer is kind of redundant, Jim.
Oh yeah, I know. I was a little redundant with that. There's an old joke about that. Go ahead.
So here you can see some beer bottles. And note that they have got little wooden hats to keep the midges out of the beer. Okay, so there was a huge garden that we could use as well. And we had barbecue there, which was great. Here you can see another shot of the little hat on the beer bottle. And these are some of the projects we did. The 4 bowls in the background, that was one group who did this cooperative project, and then another 4 people did this one. If you like, I can talk about that in more detail at another time. And that was the bowl that we turned, yo-yos, the Gessner pencil. You can see the clamping mechanism here, and just the lead, it sticks out a little bit too much. Should be further in. Finger rings. Yeah.
Give a close up of the bowls in the back. They look intriguing.
I'll try, see whether I can enlarge that. Okay, can you see them bigger now?
Yeah.
I'm more interested in these little bony things in the left foreground.
These, yeah, that was the off-center turning that we did. So
see if I can find the cable.
Now, were you 4 guys? Were you 8 people good friends before this? You all worked on the Zoom work, so you knew each other. But did you become good friends as part of this thing?
Yeah, we did. We actually met once before, when there was a bigger wood turning symposium in Germany, in my area, and I invited these people to visit me, and we had a brunch at my house. So we have already met once, but that was the kind of a second in-person meeting that we had, and before that we only knew each other via Zoom, and we are from different areas in Germany, so it's not that easy to meet normally.
Seems to me like a pretty good chance to make some pretty good friendships.
Yeah, I think that's part of the fun, to learn wood turning, to meet people, to socialize with other wood turners, to exchange knowledge, material, and we exchange tools and wood and stuff like that as well. Yeah, so
very cool.
Finger rings we did, tippy top, little mouse. Yeah, and this was one of this cooperative challenge. The topic here was wild border, and this group decided to turn 4 separate bowls, then saw them, not a straight cut, but kind of with round cuts on the bandsaw, and then glue the 4 pieces together, so that each of them has one bowl now made up of 4 different bowls, and they all have wild borders inside.
They all did it the same way. I didn't see anybody turn any pieces upside down or anything.
No, they agreed on the size of the foot, and I think the total size of the bowl, and so that they could saw them apart and put them together.
Yeah. More pictures?
Okay. Yeah, I just have to leave this mode. Yeah. Okay. Go back. Some more projects we did. That was the vase, the mouse, a little wooden sculpture with a metal ball inside. It's not really wood turning, but one of us wanted to do that. And Helmut did some repair work for the family where he stayed in the holiday flat. He repaired something. Okay. Then we had one day of excursions. The host's father has a wood workshop that has been going for 50, 60 years now, maybe it's even older. So, and he's nearly 90 now. He took us through this wood workshop where he still does little repair jobs and things like that, and some photos of his old machinery. Here you can see part of the bandsaw, tools, his workbench. So that was really nice to see this old man in his old-fashioned workshop still working happily there. I wish I could do that as well. And we saw a new workshop from a company that's called Max Lucy. In the middle of the picture here, you can see Max. He is a cabinet maker, carpenter, and wood turner. And he's just moved into a new workshop, which he's still repairing, or kind of where he still has work to do. And his specialty, and that's something for Jim now, is turning lampshades of poplar wood.
That would
And
be pretty popular. People love
Yeah.
those.
and he made one for us together with Robert, who also did the cooking at the day when we visited. So that was really nice to get a meal and get a nice wood turning demonstration. So, and this is his studio.
Wow. Those are really good.
exhibition room.
Those are really,
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah. Does he sell them like wired up electrically, or do you have to do that
Yes.
yourself? Yeah, he sells
Yeah,
them as a finished piece. Yeah,
He sells them as a finished piece, yes.
they're really
He
nice.
does-
What's the price in euros?
In euros, around 200, 250 euros for a lampshade.
$300.
About the same in dollars, a little bit less in dollars maybe,
Yeah.
but around $200 maybe, 220, 230, depending on the shape. And some shapes are easier to turn, he told us. Some shapes are more difficult to turn.
He's turning them
So-
from green wood as well, isn't he?
Yeah, the
You see this lamp
wood shouldn't,
shade? It's out of poplar.
it's poplar, yeah. The wood shouldn't be older than half a year, he said. So he had some logs lying there in his new workshop, and he said he had to work them quickly, not to lose the wood.
Yeah, I would think that it has to be with fresh wood or you won't get anywhere. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
And-
Very, 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 very nice.
yeah. He developed a lot of techniques around that, how to they deform a little bit when they dry, then he wets them again, and then tries to get a round shape at the bottom again, because that just looks nicer. Not the whole shape needs to be round, but the bottom should be round. So he has yeah, a wooden jig to get the round shape again. Yeah. So, and he developed some techniques for the sanding and stuff like that. And they are really, really nice. He does other things as well, like bowls and spinning tops and pencils. But the lampshades are really the thing that are most interesting. But he cannot live on these lampshades alone. So he does carpenter's jobs, cabinet making jobs and stuff like that as well. Or his company, he has some people employed as well. And also he said the lampshades need a lot of concentration to do. So the plan is to make maybe 2 or 3 lampshades in the morning, then do other jobs, and then come back to the lampshades the next day.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Did I hear that what's the wood on the lampshade on the right? Did I mishear it?
It's poplar.
Oh, okay.
Soft and easy to turn, especially when it's green. That's got to help
Yeah.
a lot. You're basically like scooping ice cream.
And it shines through nicely.
Yeah, you got to get them thin. Very good
Yeah.
work.
He does the outside first, and then he hollows it out using hook tools and gouges.
Like to see a video of that sometime.
Boy, yes.
Okay, maybe there is a little bit of video. I'll have to ask the others. Some of them took videos, and maybe I
If
can
you get
organize
it,
one.
if you got anything coherent, we'd love to see it sometime. Yeah, not today.
Yeah, I'll do.
Okay.
Okay,
Next.
and then the last photo, the highlight was an ice cream van. It's very rural where this where we had that seminar, and once a week an ice cream van comes along, and you can see even adult or grown-up woodturners can be children again when they wait for the ice cream.
And then go to the lathe and make an ice cream scoop. Questions and comments for Kai. That's a delightful slideshow, and I'm delighted to have the insight in the little window into how you guys operate. Same as us, just in another language.
Yeah.
Questions?
I'm envious of the relationships that I'm sure happen in that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and in that vein, we are all looking forward to Mid-Atlantic this fall as well here in Lancaster. So that'll the demo list is a good one as usual. And for us anyway, anywhere around our 10 club area, it's it's a drive. So okay, I'm going to move along with thanks, Kai. I'm going to give Randy a spot here. He's got some pictures from the Lancaster picnic, and then we'll get to looking at real wood turning with the rest of you lot. What do you got, Randy?
Well, I just took some rather
There you go. That's the picnic pavilion.
anonymous photos of the picnic festivities, and more of the people rather than the objects or wood turnings that they brought. So
There is a show and tell going on there, and that's Jack Hawkins showing whatever it is he made. I can't remember what it was.
yeah, this was mostly the frisbees that were made.
Yeah.
So this was more like just taking pictures of the picnic rather than concentrating on wood turning. And there were probably, what, about 15, 20 people there?
I would say that about right. Yeah. About a little smaller than last year. I think that's partly due to the date, July 5th. I think a lot of people are away still or all picnicked out.
Yeah, I know I have 4 picnics in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, it was a very pleasant evening, good chance to yak with people.
Now that was a good picture. These pictures were hard to take because the background was so bright and we were under the shade, so I did have to edit them slightly.
I found that last year as well. That's why I didn't even try this year. Very difficult to photograph. I got Ziegler with the demo frisbee, which was plastic. And that was the ugly one, the plywood. I think it went pretty far.
Yeah.
That was hideous.
Hey. Mike didn't bring a frisbee this year. Last year he had a flying saucer with built-in flashing lights.
Yeah.
And Ben brought a fantastic bowl of box elder. Just I've never seen such splash of box elder color in a piece of wood before. You didn't get the inside of it. You're looking at the back. Oh, here it comes. Man.
Yeah, I was just taking pictures from where I was sitting.
Yeah.
I thought later about that I should have gone up and taken individual
You just
photos
fine.
of everything, but
And the glimpse is good. And this is
now,
the
this is
frisbee.
when we were throwing frisbees. So everybody was standing out in the field throwing their frisbees around. And there was a kid on the far end of the field that had a frisbee as well.
Yeah, he was throwing a red frisbee and catching it, making a boomerang.
Yeah.
Matt had one of those surveyor's wheel rollers to measure the distances. And I think they decided to count where it rolled, not where it landed. Some of them rolled pretty far after they hit the ground.
Mm-hmm. And this is the jam chuck award ceremony.
There it is. Black raspberry jam this year. It's a jam jar jammed into a jam chuck.
So that is the extent of the photos that I took. So
All right. Well, that's a good glimpse. Thank you very much.
no problem.
Take the spotlight off you. Ray, you were there. What do you have?
Hi, John. I just want to share something my wife found the other day, and she said, what do I want to do with it? And when I looked at it, you guys may recognize this.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
You remember that? When I looked at this is 1992, and I actually built that cabinet that's there. That's out in my shop. If I looked at this, David Sloan is an editor, and Ernie Conover is a contributing editor.
Yeah.
And this was the last black and white copy of that, and then they went color. But I found that it's interesting when you look back at some of this stuff, names pop out that over the years you meet. So I just want to show everybody that from 1992. So
and David and Ernie are both regulars here, and yeah, and in '92 also I had my very brief return. I edited a couple of issues of Fine Woodworking in between editors in '92, so that all fun. Thank you, Ray. Okay, Arthur, what do you have?
I just have a bowl that I did, well, I finished it last week, and I thought that I would show this. This is a combination of bark and resin, and I also have a light that I put in it, and you can change the colors, but that way you can see how the light transfers through.
Can we see the inside of it? Can you hold up the
Here, I'm gonna take the light out. Yeah, so that's
okay. Yeah,
I could probably put the light here, changing colors on you, but it's got glitter in the resin, and it's actually multi types of finishes in there. I have shallow pour resin, a deep pour resin. I used different angles. I used a pressure pot. I used pretty much every technique I have or know, and I used it, and I used this in the video I'm making. So I thought I'd show it here first because I have to ship it off to the person that purchased it. So I wanted to let you folks see it beforehand. But I do have, you talked to me originally, I think my first day, about different wood finishes and how people prefer the natural finish to a resin finish. So I did some experimenting, and here, I'm just gonna flip my lens around here, hopefully without knocking my coffee over. And here are, whoops, here, I'll get that out of the way. Here are 4 bowls. They're all turned from American ash. The one on the left has epoxy on it. The one next to it, from left to right, is walnut oil. Then I have, what the heck is it called? Tung oil. And the one on the right is boiled linseed oil. And of the natural finishes, or of the oil finishes, I have to say I like the tung oil the best. So I don't know what, yeah, they all have 2 coats.
Was that straight tung oil, or was it diluted with citrus?
I have no idea. It's the Minwax tung oil.
I always remember those finishes, which I don't use anymore, as needing 3 coats before you really had a finish.
Yeah.
I don't know what other people might think.
Okay. Well, I can put more on, and I definitely have it. So anyway, that's all I had.
Well, which finish do you like best?
I prefer the tung oil. It leaves the finest finish. It brings out the grain a little better.
Can you use that with epoxy?
I would probably not put well, you probably could after it's cured, but the cure times are quite different. I know that the boiled linseed oil took much longer to cure than the tung oil, and the walnut oil, the one in the center here, it took a little longer than the tung oil as well. So it takes a little bit of time. The resin, well, that's 24 hours and it's done. So
Well, don't you have to polish the resin? What do you polish, or does that, it can't come like that out of your mold?
it's not in a mold. I put it
No,
on,
paint it on. Yeah.
I paint it on, use a rotisserie and let it actually self-level. That's how I get these perfect smooth finishes.
You don't buff that afterward.
Nope, that's just straight resin coming off.
Arthur,
So is that a drool over there on the left side, or is that in the wood?
With
Okay, okay. Now I'm seeing it. It's in the wood. Yeah.
it's a glass finish.
Arthur,
Okay, so
I think if you're using tung oil, do you say Minwax? They have dryers in that. They screw around with it. It's
Yeah,
not,
I know.
It's
I-
not
I-
real tung oil.
I Googled it, it asked the question, does Minwax tung oil finish contain tung oil? And the answer is no.
No.
I use tung oil from Milk Paint Company. It's half and half, they call it. It's diluted with citrus, and I love that stuff, but it's real tung oil. But you gotta dilute tung oil because it's pretty thick. So
And you gotta keep it, it's gonna go off in the can too. You gotta use a stop loss bag or some other way of getting the air out of there. It'll just gel right into your can.
As
Okay.
Mike said, I've read articles that said the tung oils actually could be soy oil. I mean, it really is a misnomer.
So where do you buy pure tung oil? I've seen it at Home Depot supposedly, but if they're putting dryers in it and other things, it's not true pure, right?
look at Milk Paint Company.
Milk
And
paint.
they sell that. They say it's straight up tung oil. I don't like to mix it, so I buy their mix of citrus oil and tung oil, and I have used it for years and love it. So,
How long does it take to cure?
you know, I did a bowl recently, and I think it took a good week before I felt like it was hardened. And
Okay.
I've only one coat on it. I haven't recoated it, so. But
Okay.
it's days, you know, or a week. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I use lacquer. I like a lacquer finish, and it seems to be hardened and dried in 5 minutes, but in fact, it also takes about a week before it's fully cured.
Can I chime in?
Yes.
Okay. I've historically, I love the tung oil finish as well. And I have found that if it is pure tung oil, it is very thick, and it takes, the research that I've done has indicated it takes a full 30 days to cure. It dries fairly quickly, but to cure, you need a full 30 days. So often I've used a product from Lee Valley Tools. It's a polymerized tung oil. So it does have some dryers and that added to it. And it dries pretty much overnight, and two or three coats of it work great. And it comes in either the low luster or high luster. So I typically use the low luster for at least 2 coats, and then a third coat if you want gloss, add that. And the finishes are just, in my opinion, they're fantastic. So for salad bowls, and it really works nicely.
Do you have examples, or could you show us examples of some of your bowls with the finishes?
I can for next time. I'm in my office right now, not in the shop, but sure, I can make a point of that. No problem.
Sherry, have you ever used water locks, and is it similar to the mix you're talking about?
Water locks, from what I understand, it does have some actual tung oil in it, but you guys are right. Like there's so many misnomers out there. They call products tung oil, and when you actually do the research, there's little or none in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and water locks, I think, does have some, but I'll look further into that as well and let you know.
It was my understanding that water locks and the mixture you're talking about from Lee Valley are very similar, but I have no direct experience. I know water locks, but I don't really know the other.
They behave very similarly. The way that you apply them and the results are very similar.
I thought that would be the
I
case.
haven't,
Yeah.
I haven't actually looked at the sort of the chemical analysis of each.
Do you buff them at the end, or do you get your finish? What's your final touch
Well, it
up?
depends what I'm doing. So if it's a salad bowl, although people are drawn to the shiny finishes and they sell much quicker, I'm not a huge advocate of that, because with use, the shine goes away and then people seem unhappy. So I generally will go with a matte finish, and I don't buff them if it's meant for everyday use. And the other advantage in going with tung oil over some other finishes is because it penetrates so deeply into the wood, it doesn't leave, you know, scratch marks and that if people use the salad bowls. So yeah, some people seem to just buy them to look at, which it's great that if you just use a shiny finish, but if it really is meant to be durable and long-term use, then I would definitely go with something, a tung oil.
Okay,
My
anybody
2
else?
cents worth.
Good 2 cents. Anybody else on this?
Yeah, I do. I wanted to say that I watched a fellow on YouTube who tested 8 different products, and he recommended the tung oil, but he said the tung oil finish wasn't as hard as some of the other finishes. And he recommended putting, I think it was 2 tablespoons of spar varnish in your tung oil and mix that in, and that added the extra strength for hardness. Chemicals.
Amateur finish chemistry.
Yes.
Amateur finish chemistry.
Mhm.
Sherry, I'm intrigued with the fact that you said there was a shiny tung oil. Everybody is perpetrating the theory that people buy stuff that are shiny, and I'm with you. I prefer matte finishes, but if I want to get rid of stuff, I got to make it shiny, I guess. So.
Yeah, so the Lee Valley, yeah, the Lee Valley has 2, and one is a high luster and one is a low luster, and they work very similarly. But again, I don't know the chemical analysis of what dryers and what additives they've put in them. But again, just from an experience perspective, I've been very, very happy with them.
Anybody else?
You know, one
Okay.
thing real quick, I know the Deft used to sell a lacquer sanding sealer, and you can use one of those little touch-up spray guns from Harbor Freight. You rarely have to even clean it out because lacquer thinner will always cut dried lacquer in there. And it's just, if you're into production, which I am not, that's a real quick finish because it does dry so quick. And it's been on cars and boats and everything for so many years. It's pretty reliable. It's just a suggestion, guys. Love this collection of ideas that we've done.
Anybody else?
John, Waterlocks has a 100% pure tung oil that's different from their regular finish.
Ah, okay. That's worth looking into as well. Okay, I'm gonna move it along. Thank you very much. It's always a good finishing discussion. Mike Peace.
I was gonna wait until Jim Duxbury showed his sharpening jig, because I have a homemade sharpening jig as well.
Why don't you show yours and we'll see if we can find Duxbury. He doesn't have his hand up, but I'll find him.
Okay, mine is this. I used a piece of the rod from the one-way Wolverine. It was too long and I cut it, just used a bent rod and tapped a hole for a screw. And because of the shape, it makes it easy for it to center, although I didn't get my hole centered exactly right. And basically,
that's a lot like the Dewey that David Ellsworth sells.
Yeah, very similar. And I guess I did this at a time when maybe I was into changing the leg position, and this one is a little more swept back primarily for the spindle gouge, and then I had a different setting for bowl gouge, but I haven't used this in some time.
So that's now the tail end of that goes into the long arm V holder on the sharpening.
Exactly, and it's kind of rounded over, so it will pivot, and it's almost the same angle as the Doug Thompson recommended 23 degrees. It's just a little shallower, so it facilitates a little more swept back grind for a spindle gouge. That's
Okay,
all.
questions and comments? Is Duxbury still here? Duxbury, let's see what you got.
Duxbury here. Well, when I first started, and you can hardly see that. When I first started, I wasn't sure how to use one of these or whatever. Also, I started on a shopsmith. And although I dislike the machine, it does a lot of things that you can't do on anything else. But anyway, I made a wooden arm that fits it. And there's a dimple on the end. And that
That's the same dingus, yeah.
this fits in the dimple. This is just a 5/16 steel rod. I think there's a T welded on the end of it and an old bolt or something. This adjusts back and forth.
Just another version of the same dingus.
There's a stainless steel leaf in here with a 1/4-20 knob on the top.
And then you use a gauge block to get the tool to protrude the same amount every time. Is that right?
A gauge block. What do you mean?
How, you got to put a tool in there, and how far does it stick out?
Yeah, I have a hole drilled in my grinder base with a nickel shoved up in there, so that it doesn't wear out. And the only problem with this was I started, as I learned how to use tools, I started getting bigger tools, and I make the damn opening big enough. Anyway, you live and learn on some things, but
Well, that's a very manageable design, though. You've laminated that up, I think, haven't you?
yeah.
Yeah, so all your holes are all built in the glue up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all walnut. Anyway,
We have on the same t-shirt, Jim, except you had to earn yours. I bought mine for $5.
oh yeah. I worked there so many times, I think I have 6 of them or something. Anyway, a lot of
Go for it. Don's got something today too. What do you got, Don?
There's,
Same thing.
this is a jig I made. It's lignum vitae with a V block in the top and a piece of aluminium being bent round so it rises up and down. Bar and
Hold it up a bit
ball.
higher so we can't see the hole. There you go.
It's got a ball which sits in the cup on the grinding jig, and then to give me different angles, lo and behold, Mike, there's one like yours.
Did you make that one as well, or is that store
I made
bought?
this one as well.
That's a pretty good copy of one of the store boughts.
Yeah.
You
Do you have
guys
a
are.
welder? Do you have a welder, Don?
No, a friend of mine's a welder, but I get it all cut up and then we got it welded and I went from there.
I like the bearing on the end of, is that a bearing on the end of the pressure?
Yeah, that's the bearing so that
Good
when
idea.
you've got bigger gouges, that sits across the two.
Yeah, very nice.
Gouge.
That's a nice tool.
Hmm.
And what I'm on, can I just show you 3 bowls I've just made?
Go for it.
The first one is a bowl for a ceramic lid, hollowed out.
What's the way?
Fender sealer and buffed.
Nice piece.
The second one is a Comosine lid of peacocks. And again, all
That lid sits inside a recess and rests on a little internal lip there.
just a little.
And you're
lid.
hollowing the bowl up underneath that lip, aren't you?
Yes, that's completely cut right back in here.
And what are you doing that with? All right. I have one like that too.
Goes in.
Yeah, you can
and
get way in
right
there with a
round
tool like that.
inside.
Yeah.
And then the last one is a potpourri pot with a brass lid, which is cut with hearts. And again, the base has got a little bead on the above the foot And again, cut right back inside with a little reverse bead there.
Pull it back closer to your face so when show us a side view.
There you go. Thank you, Ken.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, just hold it. That's good. And tip it. We want to that we can see it better now. Hold it closer to your face. Back from the camera. Yes. And now rotate it so we can see this full side view. That's what we want. Okay, hold still. Just hold still now. Okay. Great. Questions
They
for
are
John?
sander sealer and then buff polished.
No lacquer?
No lacquer. Purely buffed. I use a four-wheel buffing system.
What's on the fourth wheel?
The buff. The others all have the brown polish, the white polish, and then Canubi, and then I buff it off with a clean mop afterwards, right at the
Clean
end.
mop. Okay.
Yeah, a cleaning mop.
Okay. Okay, Bert, what do you have today?
Thank you.
Okay, I ran out to the shop while you guys were talking and I picked up this my little cutter. I don't know if you can see that on there.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Hold
I
still.
tried to-
Stop moving it around.
I tried to find the box that they came in and I couldn't find the box. I set it down someplace so I wouldn't lose it and I can't find out where I set it, but
Okay, now
the-
turn
the
it so we
12
see it. We want to see a side view now. Just
Okay.
rotate. There you go. Rotate it and hold still.
Okay,
Rotate
there's the
some more.
side
Hold
view.
still. Hold still there. Okay.
okay, so
So
I
you
make my
ground
own.
you
I make my
ground
own
the end of a
bars.
round
I
bar.
ground the end off. I put it on an angle,
Yeah.
and then with a screw. That's just I think a 3mm screw. And I buy these kits of screws. I put the links or pictures of the links in on
In
the chat.
Yeah.
And I use these all the time because there's 3, 4, and 5mm. So if I want to make a kit, I don't care what size the cutter hole is. I just find the right screw for it. And they got button head and tapered head. So these
So
things
now
are
how do
like
you
20.
how do you thread the hole in the rod?
I've got a tap. I got a set of metric taps, 3, 4, and 5. Just an inexpensive metric tap. Drill a hole and somewhere's close, and then just tap it with a tap.
Oh, okay. Just like we
So
did in school and haven't
The
done
flat
since.
the flat carbide I can sharpen. Is there any way of sharpening the cup ones?
I don't know, but the flat ones they don't cut as well. They scrape. This one actually cuts like a gouge, and that's why I wanted to try it because Kai had mentioned it, and I thought, well, I'm going to try it. And this is the first one I used, and it's really amazing. I don't know if I'll be able to sharpen it, but they're inexpensive. They're about $4 a piece. I think the box of 10 I think cost me $40 or something like that. So $4 or $5 a piece. I thought it was worth it for what I'm using.
I've already ordered them.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a relatively cheap investment, and yeah, once you got them, you mount them on a bar and go for it. But you got to cut them on an angle. If you go straight in, I did the same thing that I did with my first hunter. I went in and touched the wood, and it just took a vicious gouge out of the wood. So you got to turn it about 10 or 15 degrees, and then you get the shear cut.
Yeah.
And once you get a shear cut, it's just like a bull gouge. You can tip it and ride the bevel, and just like I say, it was amazing how nice they were. So, and it's 360 degrees. So I've only ever used about 1/8 of an inch of it already. So you can rotate it. So time will tell.
What's the
Bert,
angle on the end?
Bert, how would you compare that to a Hunter carbide?
That's what I had the small Hunter carbides, and they work really, really well. This one is just 12mm, and so it just it's a little more aggressive. It's a little bigger, but it cuts the same. It leaves the same finish as a Hunter carbide, and
Yeah,
it's quite a bit
Hunter
cheaper.
has some larger ones as well, but the shape and the profile are pretty much identical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
the
think that's
cost
what it
is
looks.
this is quite a bit cheaper than the Hunter ones. The Hunter ones are great. Don't get me wrong. I really like them, but this was inexpensive, and I wanted to try it. And so far, initial indications are, yeah, I like it.
I had the Hunter and I shattered the cutter and I can't, now I got to order a new cutter. So I never used it, but it was a great tool when it worked.
Can I butt in again? I've got something similar to what Bert's got, but mine is a square bar. And
hold it still so we can see it. You're waving it around. That's good. Did you make that or buy that?
This was a bought tool. It's called Simon Hope, and it's with the flat. You're always going in at the right angle. I'll turn it the other way.
Right. Yeah.
So when you're always in, you always got that right angle. So you might be better off, Bert, getting a square bar and doing it, and getting the right angle when you put the piece in.
He can grind it flat on his round bar too.
Or he could run, and then you've always know you've got the right angle, and you won't get the digs that you said you had.
Yeah, well, I think it was a learning curve, and with the round, I have the ability, the flexibility to I have the flexibility then to go whatever angle I want and ride the bevel. If you've got it flat bar, you're kind of limited, and you got to kind of roll it on the edge. So I think again, it's personal preference. You get a tool and you learn how to use it, and if it works for you, great. And I'd be worried about cutting the angle on a square bar and getting it wrong, and then I'd be upset. And this way, it's round. I can just rotate the tool a little and carry on.
Yeah,
Mike's waving something around here too. That looks like a Hunter tool.
Yeah, this is the Hunter Viceroy that's got the square bar, and like yours, Bert, it's dipped, and it's got a slight angle. So you hold this on
Lift it up.
You hold this on the tool rest flat, and so it'll act just like a bowl gouge, the same profile, with the same principle Bert's got going.
Yeah.
And it's again that cupped cutter, so it's very aggressive. These are frequently used on hollowing tools.
I have the Jimmy Clues mate set. There's about 6 or 7 pieces of it. They're all cup cutters, and they're all on a square shank, basically, with a rounded edge that you can kind of do an undercut with and that. But they're all on the same principle, but it is a flat square block. I really like them. I've been using them for quite a while. They work really good inside anything like that.
I recall that the Hunter shape of cutter was presented originally as an innovation and a patent and a secret, but it sounds like it actually was a discovery out there in the land of industrial cutters for aluminum.
Well, I got my first one it was actually a Rolly Monroe tool before I heard about Hunter tools. The Rolly Monroe had an articulated end on the Rolly Monroe. It actually has 2 or 3 joints on the very end, so you can adjust it. And it came with a cup cutter, and I really like it. That's my next step. Is I'm going to modify this tool and put some articulation on the end so that you can get in and do undercutting inside of a vessel, just like the Rolly Monroe. And because this is bigger, I'm expecting to hollow out my logs quicker. That's all.
Todd Raines sells that articulating, I don't know who makes it, articulating tip on a rod. Stu, thank you. I bought the Jimmy Clues mates after you talked about them, and I love them. Yep.
We talked about grinding wheels last time. I just wanted to show you my grinding wheel has some ripples.
There.
See the ripples to the right of it?
Yeah.
And that's just from sharpening tools. And then
How long you had it, Jack?
It broke loose here.
How long have you had that wheel?
Maybe a couple years now.
Okay.
But
Anybody
it
else
had those ripples, and I thought something just isn't right. So
if it's Woodturners Wonders, give them a call. I think they'll make it right for you.
Okay.
If it's a Woodturners Wonders grinder wheel.
I agree. He'll take it. He'll take it back. He's a very reputable guy. So that looks like a manufacturing defect. That coating has to get on there somewhere. It probably is put on at some kind of a, I don't know what they do.
electroplated.
Yeah. Well, kids, it's 11 o'clock. I'm going to thank you all for another entertaining hour. I will get caught up on the videos. And we'll see you all next week.
Yep.
Thank you, John. Have a great day.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.